Awesome. We are live. So thank you guys so much. Little behind the scenes joke here is we had an intro that we wanted to see if it played or not. So apparently it's still not set up.
It's all
So
good.
today was the test to see. So
We could have played some music in the background and just kind of like danced and act like,
Absolutely.
Right.
it was the intro.
Right. So yeah, pretend we've got this really cool intro, but we will next week, right? So we have it already. It just got to figure out how to have it automated. Awesome. So welcome to our next episode of Winners Wednesday. If you guys have been on with us before, you definitely recognize these amazing agents and leaders. Miss JB Hawkins, all the way from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Mr. Ruben Garcia from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Ruben always does like the queen wave, or I should say the king wave.
Every month.
I'll take either these days. It doesn't matter, does it?
Oh, God. So for those of you that are new to Winners Wednesday, we have top producers on from all over the country every single week that are just kind of sharing their best practices in hopes to kind of enlighten maybe other real estate agents that are newer to the industry, or even if you've been in the industry for a little while, and you can definitely take away some nuggets and be able to implement in your business. So JB and Ruben are so kind to join us once a month, the second Wednesday of every single month, with a different topic. And today's topic, drum roll please, is real estate investing. So I know all of us are in real estate investing besides being a real estate licensee and agent in some form and capacity. And this is a question that I'm often asked because I believe every real estate agent should be an investor themselves. And my personal opinion is there is a big pipeline of potential opportunity investments that we might start seeing in the next 12, 24 months. So with it said, I just want to kind of give a brief overview. If you guys can kind of give an introduction, and then also not just to being a real estate agent, but also how you have been able to implement investing into your portfolio.
Take it away, Ruben.
Oh, okay.
Oh, guys first.
I was going to do ladies first, but she knocked off the wand.
Yeah, it's all good. So, Ruben Garcia here. Yep, find Fayetteville. Find me here. Find me in Fayetteville. So that's my quick introduction. And your question was about real estate and why to get into it or investing?
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. Yes. So kind of your background as being, not just a real estate agent, but also a real estate investor.
Yeah, so I didn't find investing for years. So, I thought it was the bee's knees to be an agent and be the best agent I could be. And that was it. And then be the best the team leader I could be. And that was it. I didn't really know much about the investing world until I started to honestly go to more investor meetups and wanting to just find people who are interested to be agents. And that way we could grow our firm. That's really how it started. And then I started meeting it and hearing these people. And I was like, oh man, there's a way that you can make passive income by this whole investing thing. And that sounds pretty cool. So just started diving deeper, got in touch with, Shelby, Mike, Dan, the man at the time, and all those 5 pillars peeps. It wasn't 5 pillars at the time, but they were already investing. They challenged me. We had some mindset checkup from the neck up conversations and eventually fell into it. It's a quick bio on all that.
Awesome.
I love it. JB?
So I've been a real estate agent since 2007. And I had from the very get-go, like my first year in real estate, I had a guy that I met on floor time when we actually had that at a real estate office. We met. I sold him probably close to, 100 rentals in the first 2 years of my real estate career. And I continued to do that for the first couple of years. And so, I'd always kind of be curious, but I was like, oh gosh, how do I do that? Well, finally, one day I called him, and this was years later. This was like 2018. And he was like, I was wondering when you were going to ask me. So that's kind of how I got started. And I've done everything from short-term rentals to flipping properties. My husband and I have a storage facility, and now we're starting to get into long-term rentals. So it's just in that short amount of time when you start getting around those people doing it, I call Micah all the time asking for advice. So when you start getting in those rooms, the possibilities are endless.
That's awesome. So I love that you mentioned that you've kind of done several different types of projects, because one of the things that I like about the investor space is it's not one size fits all. There's definitely a lot of different opportunities. I mean, here, we have flipped hundreds of houses, done anything from commercial to apartments, and then now absolute net restaurant deals. And then I know Ruben does the oh my gosh, I just went blank, the short-term rental market. So, which is something that I haven't really dabbled into. So it's kind of interesting to see the diverse background. So for agents that are watching this are like, okay, I would love to get started in real estate investing, but I have no idea where to even get started. What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, that was me. Even though I had been the realtor on so many transactions, that the other side of that, I was totally clueless. And I think you've got to start going, like Ruben said, to the investor meetups. You've got to start talking to people that have already done it. And here's what's crazy. When you ask, my experience, when I ask seasoned investors what they're doing, I remember being a little bit, I don't want to say shy, just kind of like, oh, I don't even know the questions to ask. I might sound dumb, like I don't even know where to start. But when you really just start asking those questions, you get a lot of answers. And then, you'll get, oh, well, you should read this book, or you should go follow this person on YouTube, or you should talk to this person, or, so I think you've just got to start getting in those rooms and ask a lot of questions. There is nothing wrong. I have people ask me questions all the time, and I'm so thankful because I do have this knowledge now and I love to share it.
I'm here. Can you see my pitch video?
Yeah, you did freeze. So even though you're there, you're frozen, at least on my end.
Yeah, it's like a thumbnail.
Smug look on your face.
Yeah, and I look like, yeah.
You look super excited, Ruben. Super excited.
Right? It had to be that one. That's interesting. So I guess this is better, huh?
Well, yeah, at least you look a little more excited now.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know why I did that. That's weird. That's a first for me. Anyways, yeah, I mean, for me, let's see. Nope. Okay. All right. For me, I would say let's do what I call, at least what I built today, acronym, right? Which is RPM, right? And so if you want to get started, you gotta rev up, right? You gotta get into your RPM status, right? And the R is refine, and that's like, and perfect, right? That looks like an R in my picture, so that's great. So the R is for refine, meaning what kind of real estate investing do you want to even get into? Because like you were saying, Micah, there's so many strategies to get into this, right? So cash flow, equity, tax, to save on taxes. Do you want to become your own bank? Are you looking for depreciation? Like, there's so many things that you can do in real estate. So I think the first thing you need to do is refine what your goals are, right? What kind of investing do you want to do? There's short-term rentals, long-term rentals. You can get into multifamily. You can be a syndicator. I mean, it just goes on. Commercial and restaurants like you, Micah. So it's like a ton of things. And I think that's where it all starts. You got to understand what you want, why you want it. So dive deep into that first. And there's questions online. Google it. How do I know what type of real estate investing I need to do? Ask ChatGPT, right? You could find these things along the way. And the P would be, which if you look kind of close, it looks like a P in my picture if you just get rid of that bottom thing. So that P is proximity. And this talks on what JB just said, right? So go into these investor meetups, go meet people, go shake hands, get a little wild with people in terms of like where they're going, ride with them, just do like in the field stuff. So the proximity thing's huge. So many people find out what they want to do, but never go to investor meetups. And, we do nationwide investor meetups called Pints and Properties. So if you want to ever check that out, pintsandproperties.com, you can. But you can go to Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets has a ton of investor meetups. So I would say go and get in proximity. And then the M, which I don't have an M. Oh, if you look at Micah's first letter in her name, you'll find an M. But right there would be the mentor. So JB just said she reaches out to Micah for questions, concerns, some mentorship in terms of investing. Once you go in proximity and you are meeting people, find someone in that room that is doing what you want to do and attach to the hip, and just do what they do. Be the person they are, do the things they do, and eventually you can have the things they have. That's a very quick acronym, but I would say RPM.
Love it.
I love it. And you know that we always like your acronyms. And so are you trying to see the video again?
Dang it.
You're still stuck. You're still stuck. It's okay. We love you and we can still get all your valuable knowledge. So, and like you said, there's so many different plays in the real estate investing space. Like, as you mentioned, buying properties, buy and hold for the cash flow, but then also the appreciation, hopefully over time, because we know now, of course, real estate's going to go up and down, but over time it's going to appreciate. But then from the tax benefit, you've got what we call depreciation. Also, JB, we've been talking a lot about 1031 tax exchanges and be able to defer those capital gains. I'm at a point in my life where I've done the flips, I've done the multifamily, I've self-managed, we improved properties. Now we want some more, like Ruben said, what is the end goal when we want more of that time freedom and location freedom besides just the financial freedom, which comes into more of the absolute net deals, which is low management. You're getting a minimum base rent. The tenant typically takes care of any repairs, taxes, and insurance. And although you're not probably making as much of a return as far as cash flow, if you're a little more of an active investor, so it's more of a passive investment. So again, there's so many different avenues. You just have to figure out what works for you. Going back to Ruben's acronym of mentor, I taught a class last week, which we have a recording. If you want it, definitely just shoot me a message. And it was Real Estate Investing 101, where we shared how 10 years ago, we bought our first flip property. It was actually a piece of land. It was a lot, believe it or not, for $25,000, flipped that into 50, took that 50, flipped that into a $90,000 property, took the $90,000 property, flipped that into 150, so on and so forth. And so my point in saying that, there's all kinds of things that you can do when you look at real estate investing. But if you're like many of us, hey, I don't have the capital to get started, instead of teaching those get rich quick and go and buy houses for $500 down, what we share with you is, number one, you're going to have some capital. I think everybody on this call would agree for that.
Yes.
But number two, there's other ways to flip. Like, we flipped a boat to get started. We literally bought a boat on Craigslist and then sold it. I was listening to a TikToker said that he used to flip couches on Craigslist until he had enough equity to start getting into the real estate space. So do you guys have any advice on that end? Is like, somebody's like, I've got the knowledge, I know who was going to mentor me, but I just need to get the funds just to be able to get started. He's back. His smiley face is back.
Hey, you're back. Well, I think there's investors that will initially help you for that initial capital. That's what I did on my very first one. And it was like, after that one, then I never had to have that again, ever, because I'm just creating more money with each flip that I did. And then I started flipping, keeping. I'd flip one, then purchase a rental, then flip another, then purchase a rental. But to me, it's just, when you're very first starting out, at least in my experience, I went to a private investor and he fronted me what I needed to bring to the bank. And I flipped the house. I paid him back. I took a bunch of money, and then I never had that problem again.
So essentially a local hard money lender, you're probably going to pay a little bit of a higher interest rate, but they're looking at not just the investor, but also the particular project that you're investing in.
Yes. So that's what I did, because I did not have the capital. I think I had to come, this was in the end of 2018. I think I had to come with $55,000 to the bank. And I was like, now what? So, and I've never had to do that again. So I've just always, that one flip, I needed help, and then I haven't needed it since.
That's a great strategy. There also, two things. One, you're in real estate, right? So you're selling homes. So put a piece of that commission to the side, depending on, remember, RPM, figure out what your goal is first, refine that. But maybe you may have the capital, you're just spending it on the wrong things. So allocating your capital from real estate sales into an account that's saving up for that real estate investing, that could be an easy strategy. Like I said, you're in real estate. I mean, you get paid depending on price and all the other stuff, but you get paid pretty well. And I don't know if you're with a company like EXP, there's like 13 other ways to get paid outside of just commission checks. So, you could bring in that extra revenue to then dump back into investing. And the second part of that is seller financing. So seller financing doesn't take a lot of capital at all, right? So you're coming to terms with the seller on what the terms look like for you to take over their property. Deed comes to you, you get all the tax benefits, the cash flow, and everything else. It's a great way to get into real estate. And if you want to know more about that, there's a guy named Pace Morby, Pace, P-A-C-E, Morby on YouTube, and he breaks it down for a dumb guy like me. So I'm sure anyone out there can understand his strategies and how he does it. And Grant Cardone had him on his podcast not too long ago, and I think he nets like $300K a month with this strategy alone. So you can get into investing in real estate without a lot of capital, and you're an agent. Put some money to the side, man. Quit blowing it on ridiculous things and blow it on assets that are going to kick off some cash to you. I would say those two things.
Well, I think that's really key. So when I talked about kind of the evolution, and there's a background noise. I'm not quite sure where it's coming from. So kind of that's okay. So kind of the evolution where I talked about we flip the 25 into 50 and the 50 into 90 and the 90 into 150, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. The biggest difference is we didn't take or pull out any of the capital. Be like, oh, I made $50,000. I'm excited. Let's go blow it. Right. It was always reinvested for years. And even to this day, we actually live on a very small portion of our income, and everything is just constantly put back into our businesses. So I think that's one thing to really, as Ruben just kind of hit home, is look at where you can reduce some of your expenses for that long-term goal. We can't just look at what's in front of our face. We have to realize this is something that's going to pay dividends for 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. And hopefully eventually create that financial freedom for retirement. So Ruben, I have an acronym of my own because you're like famous for all your acronyms. But we wrote a book, which I'd be happy to share it with anyone for real estate investing years ago. And it's called Embrace Your Fear. And fear is kind of the formula, if you will, for creating any good investment plan. And it stands for financials, equity, acquisition, and results. So you set up the financials, you have the equity, meaning you buy the property, right? You don't just buy just to buy. And of course, acquisition and then results. So with that said, taking a look at all this, there's so many different avenues. JB, you mentioned going from flipping houses to now having some buy and hold to doing storage. Ruben, I know that you do a lot of short-term rental and even, some creative things like RVs. How do you even, maybe for somebody that's looking at all this and like, I don't even know what I want to do, right? How did you guys fall into place of those particular avenues?
Well, for me, I knew that I had to build capital some way. Like I had to create money. I think it's like creating money from thin air. You go buy properties at a discounted price, you do a little bit of work to them, you make some money. So for me, my first goal was to build a capital. Once I got really good at building the capital, like we're realtors, right? So we know how to find, we have the MLS at our fingertips. We know how to find discounted properties. By the way, I personally do that search on the MLS at a price per square foot. That kind of weeds out and narrows my list down to where I can see if those are viable properties. So I had to do that first. And then once I got really good at building the capital, then that's when I started getting educated on like, well, now I've learned how to make the money. What am I supposed to be doing with this? And it wasn't until about 4 flips in, I realized you have to do a 1031, I think. I do not like paying all those taxes. So that was my first step, was just creating the capital. And then I started looking at, okay, what are successful investors doing? Are they putting that into short-term rentals? Are they buying long-term rental properties? Are they, buying commercial? What is it? So that was just through talking to people and asking a ton of questions.
Yes. And was the question of like how we got into it?
And that particular, like how you got into short-term rentals, like how did you decide which type of investment you wanted to eventually
Oh,
do?
yeah. So this honestly very similar to the day that you and I met, Micah, at the 10X Growth Con. Shelby was sitting next to me, and she basically questioned, like, what am I creating for myself? Because at the time, I was building other businesses for other people. That was kind of my jam, And I was like, man, I don't know what that looks like. And then I got chin checked by somebody else in the audience who basically said, what would happen if my plane went down on the way home? I told him I would die. He said, so you call yourself a good father? And I was like, oh my gosh, that hurts. And then he was like, you need to create cash flow. Your business is too active. It was a whole thing. And all that came just all at once. And that day I quit a whole bunch of things, decided I was going to come to EXP and focus on investing. So that's where it all started, but it was cash flow because of that. Because if I was dead, money needed to come into the family somehow. I couldn't do it obviously from the grave. So that's how it started. And then myself, again, Shelby, Mike, Dan the man, and maybe somebody else, we all had these almost bi-weekly meetings of what was our goal in actual. So it was our goal in cash flow, and what did we actually do that month, and what were we doing to get to that place. And it was pretty simple. The goal that we decided was, okay, if I'm dead, what really needs to happen? What really needs to be covered? And what we found out was that it was just our expenses. If the expenses were covered every month, then she didn't have to worry as much of what the next day looked like, the next week, because expenses are covered. She wasn't going to live like a queen, right? But expenses were covered, so that was good. And I think we were close to like $2 or $3 grand a month. So I don't know how we were living, but we were super frugal at the time, I guess. But
is that before inflation?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was before the trillions of dollars in the economy. But so that's what we focused on. And what I found out was like, oh man, 24,000-ish of cash flow a year. That's a little bit more obtainable than becoming a millionaire, like I thought I had to become in order for her to be financially stable, So that's all I focused on. And then we looked at short-term rentals at the time had the highest return on cash flow, revenue share, so supporting our people at a higher level. And we just kind of built out all these different levels, and we hit goal our first year. And then we just kind of, once you hit goal, that's just, what else can we do? We haven't reached our potential, keep going, So, but that's how I got started, and that's the reason why. And look, I refined what I needed, got in proximity, and found a mentor group to hold each other accountable.
I love that. And there's two things that I really want to highlight that you just mentioned that I think are really important is not just understanding your why, because I think a lot of us know our why. If you've got a family, if you're married, if you have kids, if you have parents, whatever it is, I know that I want to help take care of those and live a financially free life. But what I like that you mentioned, Ruben, is it seems like somebody kind of mentioned this to you at a conference, is what happens if you don't do that? And that's where we almost have to put that dagger to the heart a little bit. If I'm being truly honest and transparent, that's what scares me every day, is leaving my family behind a burden. And so, although I think I'm young and healthy, but we all know that anything could happen, right? And so that's what gets me motivated every single day, is making sure that my kids are taken care of, that my husband's taken care of, that, that they say, thank goodness that we put all these things in place, because we never know what can happen. So that's kind of step number one, is understanding your why, attaching emotion to the why, which sounds a little bit cliche, but I promise you it works. But then asking yourself, what happens if I don't do that? That's where we've got to be fully real with ourselves. The other part that I like that you mentioned is adding up your expenses, and then what we call the freedom number. So how much are all of your expenses? At the time, Ruben said it was $2,000 or $3,000 a month. I think that was before inflation. And so maybe before your youngest. But when you add up all of your expenses, so your house payment, your car payment, your insurance, your utilities, your food, all of those different things. And let's say, for example, that comes up to $5,000 a month. My freedom number would be, I need to figure out a way to create passive income that is larger than those expenses. So that's where we kind of truly live a free life. We don't have to say what the number is, but JB and Ruben, do you know what that freedom number is for you and your family? Is that an active conversation you have with your family?
Absolutely. Yeah. Russ and I meet, we kind of got this from you and Hamudi. We only do it once a month. Small
Oh,
steps.
not every day like us, like the crazies.
Yeah. We do it once a month, but we do have that number and we look at where we are with our investments. And we have thought, what happens if something happens to one of us? And we do have a number and we work towards that. I mean, every investment that we buy, we look at, what that's going to cash flow or, yeah, we do.
Yeah, for us, it's a little interesting because we're fine on the number now, the cash flow number. And I think, early last year, we were fine with it. So we decided to focus on a different number, which is a net worth number. Because obviously, once you start getting into investing, there's a lot of debt and all that too. So then you start looking at net worth, which is empower.com. They just changed the name, or somebody bought them out. But it used to be personalcapital.com. Now it's empower.com. But either way, that's an easy way to track your net worth. So we're coming up close on that number, which sparked another conversation, which is instead of ROI, what's an ROE? And Mike Glassby and I are going to be meeting, I don't know, next week to discuss this, which is what's your return on equity? So we have a lot of equity, but what could we disperse it into other investments, have higher cash flow, more equity, blah, blah, blah. So it's fun to have equity for net worth, but it's also like, could you get more equity and cash flow and we got to look at our return on equity. So we're looking at that now. And the wife and I meet once a month as well, and we call it a state of the marriage, where we talk about what I want out of life, what she wants out of life, what both of us want together out of life. And if needed, we pull out the budget. That's what we do. And that's the new numbers we're focused on is ROE.
I love it. So I guess Hamudi and I are the only crazies that meet every day. And we call it meeting of the mind. So it's literally.
I love it.
Yeah, it's weird. We're in like a different place. So we're a little bit more of like living in the now, and not saying that you guys aren't 100%, but like I'm enjoying more than I used to. So if you look at my IG stories, like I'm chilling doing, if y'all have ever heard of KiwiCo, which is like it's like an engineering science box that your kids can get, and we do it together. And like, if you look at like, that's what we're doing. We're building like catapults and gyroscopes and just so on and so forth, and just spending a lot of time. I'm actually enjoying right now, what we've worked effing years to do. But we do have that slice of time that, like I said, I'm gonna be meeting with Mike and do the ROE stuff. But man, if my wife and I met every day, I would drive her bonkers. And I think it would spark that, like maybe reignite something that I've put to rest for a second just to enjoy, and then who knows what would happen. But I think that's probably what's stopping me from the daily thing and more doing the monthly thing at the moment. Definitely
did that when they were younger. And I think it's important. It is important, especially when you're thinking so much futuristic, if you will, to live in the moment. And so I think for us, we have our meeting of the minds. We go to our day and we do the things that we need to do, but also like today at 4:00, we're taking off early and we're taking the kids to a movie. So I think that's very, very much important as well.
That's cool.
I think, what is it? The Mission Impossible movie? I don't know. My kids.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, I think that's what comes out. So I like that you mentioned ROE. So I always look at return on investment and return on time. So not just return on investment, but how much time do I have to put into it? Speaking from an equity standpoint, that was actually our conversation we had this morning, is we are looking at investing in some different markets like Dubai, and we were looking at the returns and et cetera. What's the appreciation? What's the capital gains, which is 0, by the way, et cetera. And so when I was looking at those returns, I'm like, okay, why don't we start converting some of this stuff over here if it really, truly makes this much sense over here? So just always being open to kind of new adventures and new opportunities.
I like the slow move into the picture behind you. It's just like very slow, not sure if we should come down the stairs. I agree.
Is that, I didn't even see him.
Yeah, it's all good. He's down now. I'm down with Dubai, man. Let me know about Dubai. I freaking want to go to Dubai so bad.
Well, come with us. We're going in October, but we've been doing a lot of, like, that's what we've been spending our evening hours, is doing research. And there are some, from an investment standpoint, there's some incredible opportunities there right now.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a whole nother conversation we can have later this year once I'm a little more well equipped.
Hey, that's where we should have one of our private masterminds is in Dubai.
I think that can happen.
Right off. Hashtag right off.
Awesome. So I think we gave a lot of great nuggets, how to get started, how to choose which avenue you want to take, etc. Any last kind of words or advice that you want to give for anyone that's watching?
No.
No more acronyms. Are you all out of acronyms today?
Just do it, man. You've heard our pointers today. Like, you know what the next plan is. It's just do it. Write down what we said today and then go step by step and just do it. You're going to fail forward. It's going to suck. You're going to hit your head against the wall for months and months and months and months and months. You're going to lose friends. People are going to backstab you. There, you know it now. Now just take action. Yeah. And surround yourself with more people like us.
Just go ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I did. Just go ask questions. Go talk to investors. Go talk to people that have those properties already and that's already are doing it. Just ask all the questions.
I love it. Well, a lot of great advice and back to asking questions. That's what we're doing in Learning Dubai now is I'm just talking to anybody and everybody in every YouTube video and everything that's out there. So I think it's good just to kind of educate yourself as much as possible. So with that said, I hope everybody, got some great nuggets to take away from this. If you want a copy of our Embrace Your Fear book, I'm happy to give you a free copy. Just shoot me a message, reach out to JB and Ruben. If you have any questions or want to, hear what it's like to work with their teams, what is the best way for agents to reach out to you?
Just on my Facebook or Instagram, JB Hawkins. You can message me anytime.
Yep. And then you can just hit me at Proven by Ruben. Boom. Proven by Ruben. So if you, on all platforms, even the new one, Thread, that came out from Meta, I'm on there. So just hit me up at Proven by Ruben. I'm there.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Adios.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.